Hey guys, and welcome back to It Girl in Review. Today, I'm actually doing a review of the documentary of Lilly Phillips on Josh Pieters' YouTube channel. It's about her sleeping with 100 fans in 24 hours. I wanted to watch this because I saw a TikTok of a girl like talking about it, and I was like, what? Like, I was very shocked and surprised by it. Didn't really judge it too harshly or anything like that, just from the premise of that TikTok. And just like, okay, I'll see it for myself. It's on YouTube, so of course you're not seeing any like sex on it. But I still wanted to watch it and just get my reactions, get my thoughts and things like that. So I'm not really going to go ham on the person that's doing it, like therapize her or try not to. Just again, I'm pretty open-minded and I'm just here to watch it, give my thoughts on the situations, the people maybe that get interviewed, and the person whose channel it is, who's doing the interviewing, Josh, as well. But yeah, because I saw like the premise of some other people's reactions of this video on YouTube and they didn't seem open-minded or nice. It seemed very like red pilly. To be honest, a lot of red pillar content is addicted to physique and sex and what women can do. And it's just like, okay, well, you would think they would be like, oh, okay, that's not it. But like they're going ham on it. It's just like, this is kind of like, what, no offense, but like, she's like on the umpteenth power of what red pillars think women are really only good for, which is sex, to be honest. But yes, I'm going to start this documentary now. Remember, you can like, follow, subscribe. I'm here on Spotify and on YouTube on It Girl in Review. So here we go. Let's start this.
I'm Lilly Phillips, and today I'm getting run through by 100 guys.
The world of adult entertainment is a billion-dollar business.
Okay, pause. Like, do you guys like? I need subtitles. I'm not a person that likes watching anything without subtitles. I love subtitles. A minute and 20 seconds into this documentary, and I already see that she's self-deprecating. And so she's trying to make this tea for the guy and for the Josh Pieters, who's coming to like, interview her and do the documentary about her. He comes in and things like that. And she's like, oh, would you like a cup of tea? She's like, oh, I don't actually drink tea. I'm only good for one thing, honestly. Okay. I'm sorry to just interrupt again. I'm only in a minute 52 seconds already. And even the person, Josh Pieters, he's a journalist, I'm not sure, but like he said he's been on YouTube for 10 years and he's gone to extreme measures to get viral along with other people. And I want to say that channels like this are exploitative. They're based off of exploitation. And it's mostly channels with men, and they usually have large views, big followings, and they usually go to different people who are willing and open and consent to all these extreme things so they can document it. And then they use the likeness of the person and the story and background of the person to exploit them. Is there any ethical way to be a journalist, you know? If this person even is a journalist or a YouTuber, is there really an ethical way to be that? But when you're telling other people's stories, you're putting a platform to this extreme thing. Again, we don't know the story because I'm a minute and 52 seconds in, but this is just my pre-thoughts. 2 minutes later, here I am. We're going through everything about how she got into OnlyFans and things like that. And she automatically seemed like a very sex-positive person. You're just open about their sexuality and them liking sex. Okay, that's fine. And then, of course, with exploitation, things like that, with this Josh person on their channel, or do you consider yourself a businesswoman? And she seems intelligent and very aware that certain things and like certain labels that she doesn't want to place on herself, because again, you don't want to get attacked for that. It was just like, oh, she'll get a lot of flack if she agreed and said she was a businesswoman. She said she's business-minded. It's self-deprecating. She has to dump herself down to seem more appeasing and things like that. So only 3 minutes and 26 seconds in. Basically, she's talking about how she has 9 people on payroll, which, so yeah, he was correct. She is a businesswoman. Her parents really don't have anything bad to say about her job. They knew since the beginning, she said. And he uses an example. He's like, oh, my parents, and I told them I was like, okay, number one. They would be like shocked and taken aback and like disappointed. But again, he's exploiting people. That's the thing. What we view as decent and non-decent is really crazy to me, because again, she's consenting adults, doing everything she wants to do, making sure everyone around her is okay, everyone's supporting her around her. Okay, do your business. But him, he's exploiting other people for views, money, and so he can grow his channel. Very capitalist, very Elon Musk-ish, if you ask me. But in the guise of a blonde hair, probably blue-eyed, nice smile, tall, skinny, white guy who's from the UK, who's like very not intimidating. So therefore, it's seen as okay and like doesn't seem like a creep. And to me, she gives off the vibe that she's one of those people to rise out of being very overt and very not crass, but just very overt and very out there. And the shocking of people's reactions and stuttering, like them being intimidated to say something, that she gets a rise out of that. She seems like one of those people, because I can be like that. We've all been there. We're in a restaurant and we just don't care at the moment. We just want to say whatever we want to say to our friends and like, talk all the nasty stuff or do whatever. Showing him all her sex toys and things like that as a way to get a reaction out of people. You know, Marilyn Monroe, she played like a dumb blonde, even though she really wasn't dumb, people say. This kind of the same thing. She's playing dumb. She's playing clueless. Talking about like very casually and things like that. You can tell from the beginning, she's very aware of how people will react to her. She's very in tuned about people, because you have to be if you're an OnlyFans model, especially if you're UK's #1 OnlyFans model. You have to be in tune to people if you want to be #1. I'm seeing with power play to be unassuming to men, especially to Josh, and just being very open, but really she's showing him how smarter she is than him and how more aware she is than him, because she's being truthfully honest. And you can tell when she's asking him stuff back, he's being dishonest or a little bit not open, because she asked him, do you use that doggy train? You know, it's like, oh, that's for my actual dog. And she's like, do you into stuff like that? And he's like, oh, no, you haven't done anything like that. I haven't really done anything like, I'm not really experienced. He kind of gave that I'm not really experienced. Whether that's true or not, it doesn't seem true when you're talking to an OnlyFans model who's being very open themselves. It's a stark contrast, and he could be honest, and he could be telling the truth and saying, oh, no, he doesn't really have that much experience. But, like, do we believe that? He's asking her about essentially what kind of guys she's into and things like that. And are you worried about if you run into these guys on the street, would it be awkward? And she's saying no, she doesn't even remember the guys. She's like, they have to be really attractive for me to really remember them. So she says no, she did 37 guys in the day before. And she said it'd be something very memorable for her to like notice them on the street. To me, it sounds like she disassociates when she does these scenes for her OnlyFans. She disassociates for sure, because you not remembering faces. And she's also talking about how, type is like, she goes for the younger chavvy guys. I think if you don't know chavs, I'll insert a picture of the tracksuit wearing guys in the UK. Talked about her first time, and she said it wasn't that special. She thought eventually she would wait until marriage, but she had sex and it wasn't that special. She realized she really enjoyed it. And so that's kind of how she got into like being a bit more promiscuous. And so Lilly went into the shops to get her outfits for the day for the guys, so she can not look bad. She wants to look presentable for the guys because they only see her online, so she wants to look as good as possible. That's her job. It is what it is. Okay, so he left her to it, and then these two old ladies walk past, and like, are you the owner of the store? Like, oh no, I'm waiting for my friend. I said a woman, Lily. She's getting stuff. She wanted to get her old ladies' reactions out of it. Oh yeah, she's sleeping with 100 guys in 24-hour period. And they're like, oh, that's nice. Then you ask her a few questions about it. He's answering it. And like, oh, she needs to get an early night then. That sounds like a lot of work. And very nice ladies, very like, non-judgmental ladies. And they're like, okay, well, have a nice day, bye. And he was just like, oh, wow. I'm surprised. They seem like very like okay with it. Again, because he's a creep. He's very judgmental. It's either he's a creep or he has to stick up his ass. I know we're supposed to be going off of her, but he's showcasing himself as an ass.
One of them fake taxis.
I don't know what's a fake taxi.
You don't know what fake taxi is? Have you never seen like it on Hub? It's called fake taxi, and basically the taxi driver ends up like fucking the passenger.
Really?
Yeah. Search it all when you get home.
She's in the taxi and tries to get a reaction out of the taxi and a reaction out of him. Because again, she wants to make good TV. She's very smart. As you know, she's not like this around her friends and family. She's only around this when the camera's on because she needs a reaction to people and she needs people to tune in and subscribe to her channel. Smart young lady, but he's acting abashed and like very shy and very like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's saying that's the taxi driver. And it's just like, sir, we have to think about how different this documentary would be if this was on a woman's channel, if this was on Tana M or like Josh Pieters' channel. You have to think about how the care like this would be under if it was under a woman's channel. A woman usually wouldn't be shy hearing that. She'd just be laughing because she can't believe this lady's saying that in front of people. but he's acting very abashed and shy. He's putting on a character. When the camera's on, guys, no matter if you see documentaries, no matter if you see anything, you see me, see people on TikTok, see people, you follow on Instagram, even your friends. You notice how your friends only post certain things on Instagram when they look really nice, photoshopped, or on really nice outfits, because this is a character in their head. No one's really themselves on camera. So when you see her, when you see him, assume that they're not like this around family and friends. I'm sure he uses a lot of swear words. I'm sure he's very crass. I'm sure he's seen a lot of porn or seen porn before. People aren't as innocent as they may seem when you watch them on YouTube or you watch their documentaries or you watch them interview people. That's just the character they have to put on for their documentary, so you guys see them as an innocent, blonde hair, blue-eyed, skinny white guy from the UK, because that's the ideal of innocence and that's the ideal of trustworthiness and a man who has respect for himself. So she's showing him right now how much money. She says she doesn't want to say. Smart girl. She's like, actually, I don't want to say the amount. Well, you can just see for yourself. He looks at her computer. He's like, wow, there's definitely more money than you guys can imagine. She's smart. She's smart. It talks about all of these guys will message me, or I can tell by their names, and they'll be like, oh, we used to go to school together, or some of her dad's friends are subscribed to her and things like that. And it's just like, to me, it's not surprising, because if you've been to anywhere in the UK, Ireland, Europe, I've never seen it in my life. Like, people can talk about certain other countries, but like Europe, UK, Ireland, I've never noticed how addicted these guys are to porn, how addicted they are to OnlyFans models, how addicted they are to that type of content. Like, you don't realize it. And so, like, that's why it's kind of hard for this creepy documentary guy, Josh, to appear, at least, not act, because we don't know him, I don't know him, to appear to be more naive to this type of stuff. I'm sure he has a friend or two that loves porn, look at OnlyFans models, loves all that type of stuff. So UK has good marketing, because you wouldn't think it, but I know a lot of, especially older guys, they love that type of stuff because they can't get actual girls, a lot of them, so they just go to OnlyFans models. That's how all these women are making millions of dollars, because a lot of guys in these countries want to get an OnlyFans model. Still showing him the business side of everything. They're very business mindset. Her 9-people team, very business mindset. They have spreadsheets. She said, this is what I prioritize. I prioritize customs mainly. That's priority because there's the people who are paying for like custom things, whether they want her to say their names or what's not. He's asked her, has she any dangerous or weird messages? And she was like, yeah, like, she said some of them can be extreme, so those requests she won't do. A guy, she said, last week asked her to put a bag over her head, and she denied that request, of course, she said. And again, jokingly said, well, if they offered you $1 million, would you do it? She's like, yeah, I'll bend my morals for that. He said, yeah, I would too. He's getting a bit more comfortable, I guess. Come on, guys, like, that type of money, if you could, you would. Right now, she went through her doing a 5-minute $300 request, which is good for her. And now she is showing him the request for 100 guys. It's just so many. These are the same people who are subscribing, or who are DMing her, or who are interested in hooking up with her. She's like, yeah, prioritizing younger guys who have a better diet track and stuff like that. That's what they're prioritizing. One guy, they said, oh, he was born in 2006. I was like, how old is he? Like 18. And I'm like, fuck, like 2006, 18? I feel so old. So she, talked about getting a phone call from her parents. And he asked her, like, oh, do your parents know, what you do? Or what you're about to do, like the 100 guys? She's like, no, they don't know. She's like, I don't really tell them specifics. And she said, yeah, we talk every day, but I don't go through and tell them the specifics of like what I'm doing, what sexual stuff I'm doing every day. She's like, it's kind of like shameful, but how she's speaking and how she's speaking so far, because again, we're only 17 minutes in, is very interesting, because I don't want them to leave here and feel disgusted about themselves. She cares so much about what people think. And I think she's 22, 23 or whatever. She cares so much about what the outside world thinks and how she is perceived. And she wants to make sure everyone's okay and everyone's having a good time when they're with her and stuff like that. Very, very interesting, because I don't know if anyone else who reviewed this picked up on that, but I noticed that immediately. I'm so concerned about their perception of her. Like, she cares so much what people think, even though she says she doesn't, like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. She says whatever, but really, She cares deeply about at least people who interact with her, how they perceive her, and they want to make sure she wants to make sure that they have a positive experience with her, whatever that experience may be. She definitely talks a lot about the comments and stuff like that. Like she says, like everyday people do talk about her. She says some people do leave comments saying, "Oh, you're never gonna get a boyfriend." She said that does like kind of stick with her because she said if she would date a guy, it would have to be a guy who's in the industry, like her, or have to be a guy who's just fine with like lending her, out to like do stuff because she loves this job. She loves having sex. That's what she says here. Josh is into the sappy mode at this point of the documentary. And in this section, she is talking about how she feels like, a lot of people are against you, whether it's Instagram trying to take your account down or banks don't want to bank with you and things like that. And that's kind of like, the downside. That's what they're trying to showcase it as. But like still yet, 20 minutes in, we don't really see a downside yet. I'm still waiting for the downside because it's like, okay, Instagram, everyone's against you. People like hate you. You get horrible comments about your body, about all these things. But it's just like, okay, but a lot of that is like a concern for everyday women as well. It's kind of like what people say about pretty privilege. Pretty privilege is not really a thing. What people experience is like the life of being a woman. Every woman gets, horrible comments. Every woman experiences misogyny. Every woman experiences the patriarchy. It's just that with women who are deemed as attractive, they think their attractiveness it will keep them safe. And when it doesn't, it's like, oh, pretty privilege. It's like, no, that's the experience of just being a woman. You just didn't think it would happen to you. Or you just didn't expect it to happen to you on this scale. So it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of like, okay, like no one experiences it on that scale, but these are definitely things women can relate to. Not the banking part per se, but like everything else, yeah. And now they're talking about her reclaiming the words LUT and words such as that. So let's get back into that. They're talking about feminism and things like this right now. And that's why I wish like this documentary was made by a woman, because guys are very short-sighted and book smart on what they believe feminism is. They don't really actually know, and they don't really have the experience. So they just have the book. And he's like, oh, Gary, you're a feminist and things like that. And she's essentially like, yeah, I think I'm a feminist. This is kind of what it means to me and stuff like that. I'm like, good for you, girl. And, he's asking her, like, she's telling him, like, guys are going to sexualize me regardless. Like, she's like, I find like I should just make a bit of money out of it. I've always been sexualized. Guys are going to sexualize me regardless. And he goes, here's the not all men thing. He's like, oh, well, not all guys. A freaking creep. Guys, he is a freaking creep. Because like, oh, not all of the guys will sexualize you. Has he met men? She's smart. She knew who she was talking to. She was very aware. Let me just correct myself. She's like, okay, well, maybe not all men, but it's one of those playing dumb and dumbing down yourself when she said what she meant and she knew she was correct. A woman watching this is like, yeah, no, seeing what she looks like, and she's a gorgeous, Lily is gorge. And so like, we're like, yeah, no, they are going to sexualize you no matter what. If you've been to the UK, guys sexualize any little thing. Guys have sex with socks. They have sex with like their beds, their mattresses. So it's like, yeah, she's going to sexualize this woman in one way or another. But for him to be like, oh, well, not all guys will do that. This is why I say these topics when it comes to sexuality and women really need to be covered by women and not men, because men don't have the range. They just don't have the range. No matter how polite, how respectful they may seem, how innocent, how unassuming they may seem, they're still creepy. They still will always come across creepy at the end of the day. Patriarchy will always be shown when you're doing these type of things with men. It will always be shown. They will always want to be seen as the good, standing guy who's standing up for men, and you're just the whore. So he's now talking to another OnlyFans model, Alex, Queen of Southampton, and getting like a bit of her story and stuff like that. And because he wants to find out if this is what the 100 guy thing is what Lilly actually wants to do, or she's just saying that's something she wants to do. Like, is it true or not? Again, this documentary would have been very different if this was on a woman's channel. Very, very different. The Alex, Queen of Southampton, how people react to her, stuff like that. And she kind of tells them like, oh yeah, I kind of do certain things, like they are expecting more and more because these girls are like other OnlyFans girls are doing more and more extreme things. So she does feel a little bit of pressure, but then he goes into, oh well, I am I'm going with Lilly on Saturdays so she can like film 100 guys in a day. Have you heard about that? And what do you think about that? I tell you, this documentary would have went very different if this was on a woman's channel, because it's just even coming from a man, like to get like, oh, okay, I'll go to another sex worker and get the scoop. And like, what do you guys think of, like, what do you think about that? It doesn't matter how you say it. It will always come off as, who the hell do you think you are? To ask one with another sex worker that, so you can like get like, okay, yeah, you guys see this is like a downside of doing OnlyFans. Yes, I agree with what Alex is saying. It's like, yeah, she is a bit sad for her because she is worried about her mental health. That's the first thing I went to, like her mental health, Lily's mental health. And like Alex is saying like, oh, she's hoping it's a hoax. Like, and she's hoping the girl doesn't go through with it because it is like a bit like scary, which I get. She like, there's a care that women who do this stuff, like would do YouTube or online content, there's a care that they have versus men like Josh Pieters. He doesn't have that type of care. I think he thinks he does, and to maybe other men and other like conservative type of people think that he has that type of care, but he doesn't have that type of care. You can tell the vast difference when him and Alex are talking, and her choosing her words carefully, and hearing Lilly talk. And even though she appears to a lot of us to just say whatever is on her mind on the fly, and this is what you expect from a sex worker, she's giving you guys a show. She's very careful in what she says and how she says and how she reacts to things. They have a lot of care versus him. He thinks he has a care. He thinks he's professional, but it's really the opposite compared to the girls. I find that this is very interesting with Alex, Queen of Southampton, is saying, wherein she is essentially telling him, Josh Pieters, on their Zoom interview, that she's worried for Lily's, mental health, but also her physical health. Like, is she going to be in pain after? Because that is a lot, And like, what is this going to mean, like for her? Because again, like she will always be the girl that slept with 100 guys in a day. She will always be that girl. After this, she's like, and when you sign, from what Alex says, when you sign like on the dotted line for like sex work and to objectify yourself on OnlyFans, she's like, it's like you're signing your life away to the devil, realistically. And you're no longer like a person, you're an object, to be objectified by everyone. And so to me, not to rationalize this at all, but you hear a lot of people say this in different industries. I hear people in the military say this because, again, when you sign, I hear government workers say this because when you sign with the government, you don't own your body anymore. The government owns your body, and you don't own your own decisions anymore. The government owns I've heard this on teachers. Like, okay, you don't represent yourself anymore. You can't say what you want to say. You have to be very mindful of everything. So like, it's not just, I'm not rationalizing, but it's just not just OnlyFans. It's so many different industries that feel, when you actually talk to them, you actually talk to the high earners at least, whether it's waitresses, the high earners, whether it's strippers, the high earners, they will say this, all the same thing, military, all of that, that they don't feel like they own them. If you really get to talk to them and, outside of their work, they will tell you like they don't feel like they own themselves. They feel like their body's just a vessel to be used by whoever, they're signed up to, whether it's the government, whether it's, the strip club, whether it's McDonald's. It does feel very draining. This is like the idea of capitalism. More money, more problems, as Biggie says. Right now they're talking about the dangers of doing this. So essentially he brings up like, what if these guys have STIs, what if they're dangerous and stuff like that. And she's like, oh yeah, STIs and stuff like that. She's like, we've got 50% confirmed. We're prioritizing the ones who have STIs. But she doesn't say it as confidently as me. She says it dumb blondie cluelessly. If you've seen this, you know what I mean. Like, you know, she has actual conversations with her employees and real conversations. So it's like for her, like again, she has to put on her persona, her show. And he's like, well, what if they have like an STI or HIV? And she's like, oh, is that where that comes from? Listen to me well, guys. It's so easy to make men believe they're smarter than you, because he's like, oh yeah, like yeah, that it comes from there as well. She's like, oh, like I didn't know that. We know she knows that. If you're a girl, if you're anyone with a brain, you know she knows this. But again, she's playing up to the camera. She's playing up to her being dumb and get a reaction out of him, get a reaction out of the audience who's watching, playing up to the clueless and dumb blonde persona. She knows about STIs and what things come from, you know, why people should get tested. Because she said, yeah, we're prioritizing the guys who've gotten tested. But even then, it's not 100%. She explains, like, you know, some data around it and things like that. She's a smart girl. She knows HIV comes from as well. But she's like, oh, like, I didn't know that's where it come from. And I'm just like, again, this is sensationalizing both of their personas, I'd say. But again, she probably went over the dangers already, but he's making it seem like he brought it up to her. He wanted to make sure she, you know, knew the dangers. Yeah. I still feel the same about him. And she's saying now he's trying to again bait her and like, oh, you don't feel like bad about this? You aren't worried, anything like that? You're not scared? I was like, no, I love this. Like, I get a ride. Like, I get serotonin out of having sex and stuff like that. He's like, oh, I don't believe that. She's like, you know what? She told you guys what I said before. She's like, I get a rise out of this type of stuff. I get people's reactions to like thinking I should be sad. She's like, I'm not sad about this at all. That's what she's saying right now, of course. But like, people are putting their own concerns onto her, which like, okay, this is a big deal. 100 guys in a day, 5 minutes each. That's a lot. That's a freaking lot. And so to me, I think, yeah, I get that, you know, bringing that concern up, like, you know, but it's just expecting someone to be sad who's not you about something that you think you would be sad about. I don't know. He asks her again, you think about the dangers, like what if someone comes with a criminal record and things like that. And again, she's doing her dumb blonde thing, or clueless thing, where she's like, oh, like, no, I didn't really think about that actually. No, I don't think anyone would do that. Like, you know, go through all that effort. Again, they're playing on the dumb young lady and the smart man who has more knowledge and who is more concerned, a father figure. Whereas, you know, he's like, oh, well, you should be concerned because, yeah, some people may do that. We're in London and you put out a call for like 100 guys. He's like, no, I guess we didn't really think about that, but I don't think anyone's going to go through that, put their ID in, do all this, And I'm like, if they're a murder, they're probably already in jail. What real crime, you know? Would they be out? I don't know the UK's judicial system, so they could be. So they put their ID in, they put all their information in and things like that. And when she said that, I was like, oh, you guys did some due diligence, because if you have their information, their IDs and all that stuff, guys know they have their information. So it is a lot less likely that criminals are going to be wanting to be involved to give their information out to them. And the night before, she went to a university event where like over 6,000 students, you know, like tried to promote it for them, something like that. Probably influencer, OnlyFans even thing. But yeah, a lot of students were there and stuff like to take pictures with her and things. So that the day before, if I was her, to be honest, I would be in my bed, getting my massage, drinking my tea, getting my electrolytes, and sleeping like a baby the whole week prior to 100 guys. Because 5 minutes each guy, that sounds painful. It's the day of, the morning of. They're supposed to be starting at 8 a.m. He's there, they're not there, and it's 8:45 a.m. But they're at an Airbnb, which I found interesting because I'm like, did you like sign off and get permission to do this at someone's Airbnb? That was the only, which I'm sure they did, because again, it's a 9-person team. I'm sure they have waivers and all that. Because why would you do it at your own home? Why would you do it at a hotel? You have to do it at an Airbnb. So essentially, the first guy shows up. I don't say his name, and like it's blurred out. He's like, yeah, like I really don't like think about things before I do them, so I just want to do this. And like, that's why I kind of figured the type of guys that would be going there, they're just like, okay, I'm just rocking up just to do something crazy, you know, in my life. And while he's talking to him, like in the neighborhood of the Airbnb, Lilly texts them and said, hey, you guys, don't be around the Airbnb and ever around there, because we don't want to draw attention to ourselves. You know, essentially, that's what she's saying. I don't want to make the blog hot. I don't want the Airbnb knowing what I'm doing here. Just for like everyone's safety and concern. They're not all stressed about like what's going on here, you know, which I completely get. They are an hour behind schedule, and her team comes and things like that. She introduces herself to the first guy. She's a really polite woman, honestly. And security, of course. I'm sorry, I would have figured she had security. I know I've heard people talk about this. It's like, because she didn't have security like prior or one time or something like that. And listen, I'm sure she made plenty of mistakes, but like, I'm sure she was aware that she would need security, especially at this Airbnb. Oh, this is getting better, this freaking documentary. And this is like what the last 15 minutes of it, everything's blurred pretty much because, he can't be filming random guys. They sign the waivers to get their IDs checked and things like that because you have an ID, which is, again, smart. But he was like, oh, yeah, everyone's a bit nervous, but there doesn't seem like too much of a plan here of like how they actually want to do this. And like, do I believe him? I don't. I think this is sensationalized. I'm sure they had like a little plan. You're having sex, you go to the bedroom, do the bed, things like that. All the guys did their ID sign in, stuff like that. So they had somewhat of a modicum of a plan. And sitting on the couch waiting for their turn, essentially, to the guys. Because in that room was a bit nervous. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of guys are nervous. They're in the bright light doing this. And there's like assistants around, stuff like that. Yeah, it is a bit nerve-wracking, but like, they're there to do it. So I don't really know what Josh expected for this atmosphere of Lilly's, but like, this is kind of what I expected. You hear like porn stars talk about these things, about going to professional porn shoots and stuff like that. And they're like, it's not as glamorous as people think. And then you hear about actors doing like, intimacy scenes and like, no, it's not as glamorous as people think. You have 1 billion people in the room and stuff like that. Like, to me, I'm like, yeah, it's not gonna, the atmosphere is not gonna be all sexual and horned up. I don't know what Josh expected, but this is what I expected. And he's trying to say like, oh, she's feeling a bit nervous now. She's like, yeah, I'm a bit nervous, but like, I'm excited, honestly. He's trying to put on a voiceover like, oh, she is weighing on her now. And I'm like, is it really? Maybe like the exhaustion of it. So they're doing it in the room and things like that. She's preparing. She's talking to the guy and like going over kind of everything. She's like, yeah, no, I think I'm going to get to 100 today. He keeps saying, are you nervous? She's like, no, I'm excited, actually. He keeps reiterating that. At the moment, they go over actually what's, kind of transpiring, if she's going to have lunch. She's like, yeah, I'm going to have lunch about noon, 12-ish. Her assistant comes in with the baby monitor so she can overhear. So making sure everything's safe and things like that, which is like, again, they had a plan of safety. That's why I'm like, she's playing dumb and stuff like that, but they had a plan of safety. And so she's like, yep, and here's the bag of condoms. She has a bunch of condoms there and things like that as well. So that's kind of the plan. And you're hearing some of the guys talk while they're on the couch waiting for their turn. Like, yep, I flew over all the way from Switzerland, And she keeps saying she's excited to get the first one in. She's also saying that, he asked, like, oh, are you guys going to shower before? And she's like, no, they're just going to come and just do their due. Which I'm like, you're running behind, girl. A few hours behind. Yeah, they ain't got time to shower. You got to do what you got to do to get them 100 guys in if you want them in, to be honest. The first 30 minutes of this was not good, but like now it's like the 17 minutes in. I'm like, okay, this is feeling like a documentary. It's getting actually to the good portion of it. Like before that, I was like, okay, this is kind of like an ego stroke, it felt like, for him. Because now it's actually getting to the nitty gritty of like her getting down to it. So she's doing 5 minutes each. I saw the time on there and like actually she's not a few hours behind. She's only an hour or so behind. So she does still have to get to it. Camera guy, they have to tell him like, hey, can you stop filming? Her assistant, when they're out in the lobby of like of course the Airbnb, they had a little lobby area outside the bedroom. And so like he's like, oh yeah, so sorry, sure. But I'm just like, why would you even try to film any of these guys, even though if you're just filming their shoes or their knees and blurring everything else out, it's kind of like invasive and it's kind of nerve-wracking. I've said this before, I'll say it again. When it comes to these documentaries, whether it's YouTube or whatever, we talk about the ethics and the morals of like the people like Lilly Phillips, but we also have to remember the ethics of people like Josh Pieters, his cameraman, and things like that. They were asked to leave, of course, like some more guys can come in so like they don't get attention on them of the neighborhood, of course. And he's like, as he's leaving, he's like, as I'm leaving, I do feel for the safety of Lilly. She literally has security and 9 staff in there. She has security and also 9 staff in there. And he's like, oh yeah, I definitely feel for the safety. And it's just like a lot, again, like when people have online personas or like influencer personas, they play it up because it's just like, sir, you don't know her. And I know I sound a bit pessimistic and a bit negative when I'm talking about this guy, Josh Pieters, this entire video, but it is like, I'm sorry, I call BS. I could be wrong. I don't know him. We don't know him. Oh, like, even though I do feel like she was a bit apprehensive on the day of now, when I saw her and stuff and she keeps saying, no, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. And it's just like him putting that on her, again, making the documentary and sensationalizing the people that you're interviewing. It's crazy. It's like, I can't believe she's doing this in this affluent area, all this jazz. It's just like, and he was like, yeah, it was just so weird. It was so weird. Yes. Like, if any of us think about it, if we were about to do an interview with a sex worker and like, even if it was just like they were only going to do like a sex shoot, with one other guy or a few other guys, and we were interviewing them and things like that, would we not find it a bit weird because we've never been in that situation or that atmosphere ever in our lives? Of course we would find it weird. So I think he's just playing it up a bit now. Now he's about to start talking to one of the guys after he got his allotted 5 minutes. This man's from Switzerland, and he's talking about his experience with Lilly. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm a fan of Lilly since the beginning. And he was like, I couldn't believe I had a chance to sleep with her. He was very nervous, especially when he saw the guys in the queue and things like that. He said, yeah, like with STI, it's more of a risk for her than for the guys. $250 for the STI check, $200 for the flight. He spent like €800 just for a one night experience and just 5 minutes with her. And he said it was definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. So essentially right now, they went to another guy, did an interview with him because they can't go back to the apartment, mainly because you just don't want to draw attention to like Lily's situation. So they interview another guy, and the other guy's extremely nervous. Like, he's trying to drink oranges and it's shaking. You can see through the blurriness it's shaking. He's just like, oh yeah, like I never did anything like this. He's just nervous. He's like, yeah, I'm really, really nervous right now. Because I don't know who the guys who went before me. No, I don't know how many. Josh Pieters asked him, you came here like just for this? And he's like, yeah, I came here just for this. And it's just pretty interesting because the guy, he has to be young because he's saying, I'm just very nervous because I'm like hoping like no one sees this, because like if someone sees this and my dad finds out, he'll kick me out. So obviously the guy's like 19, 20 or something, because that's something. That's something. And so with that, they did sign waivers and they will be posted on her OnlyFans. So hopefully her dad's not subscribed to her OnlyFans. His dad's not subscribed to her OnlyFans, or he'll find out and he may get kicked out, sadly. Right now they're outside, the assistant's talking now. She's like, oh yeah, she's almost done. She's like some guys have like left, went home, told their friend about it. And their friend asked if they can come. It's very interesting to hear, her perspective and like saying like, yeah, no, it is networking, because a lot of these guys were like, oh, like this is what I do for a living. Oh, well, we actually need someone for that. Whether it's, a plumber, electrician, something like that, so it is a networking like situation for them at least, for the production company for Lilly. And she did say to the assistant, like, oh, I can't believe we were going to do this without security. Like, what were we thinking? I'm so happy security has been so helpful with us. Like, they've just been so amazing. Like, we could just kiss them. Like, they've been so amazing. That's what the assistant said. So I guess maybe they did get security last minute, which is like a smart move regardless, for safety for everyone. So I'm watching this, and what's happening now is that she's crying, essentially. They went through everything. They talked about all the intercourse, she did play-by-play with the guys, and essentially like going into that room, it was like, you, in theory, you're in your head, you're like, okay, 100 guys is a lot, but just seeing the aftermath of all the condoms, all the wrappers, everything was just a lot for anyone to see. So she goes through the play-by-play. She's like, I introduced myself, things like that. And she said her eye stings. She's not really sore on her bottom area, but she's just like, her eye stings. She's exhausted. She only ate like a yams and a sandwich, she said, the whole day after all that work. And honestly, I'm just shocked. And Lilly essentially starts crying. I assumed, I was like, okay, she's exhausted, obviously. She's freaking exhausted. This poor girl's overworked. Exhausted, her eye stings, she's overstimulated is the main thing. I think she's just overstimulated. And so when she starts talking to him, she's like, yeah, I'm like just really tired, and I just feel like I didn't do the best job I could have done, because again, she's a people pleaser. Remember what I said before, how she cares so much about what everyone thinks who interacts with her? That came out today, and she's like, yeah, I feel like some of the guys kind of pressured me, and I had to be real stern because they, 5 minutes wasn't enough for some of the guys, and they came far and far away, they said. And so she just felt like she owed them a good experience because she just didn't want them to, do this for nothing. or come all this way for nothing. She wanted them to all have a great experience with her. And I was just like, geez. And she was just very emotional. And I felt so like empathetic towards her. And that, even though I'm not a people pleaser at all, I did feel empathetic towards her. And yeah, she is a people pleaser for sure. So like seeing this documentary was a lot. And like he had his assumption, like, I don't know if she was sad, or I don't know if she just was, just down because she regretted it after. And then fast forward now in February 2025, she said she wanted to do the world record, sleep with 1,000 guys, a world record for 1,000 freaking guys. I know, right? So yeah, that's a lot. So my thoughts with this documentary. It was an interesting documentary. Did I leave feeling like he had a superiority complex, Josh Pieters? Still? Yes, I did. His commentary, it would have been very different if she did this documentary with a woman or on a woman's channel. It would have been very different. It would have been handled a little bit more with care and less with thinking you know better, or thinking you know her better than she knows herself. Could she regret it? She could have, but it was just like he was pushing that onto her so much in this documentary, and about her safety, and it was just a lot. And you could tell throughout it, yeah, she's probably stressed and anxious about it, but she kept saying she was excited. And the day of, like any big day with an interview, with a new job, with anything that you're doing that's big in your life, you're going to be extremely nervous, especially doing what she's doing. I couldn't imagine how like daunting and exhausting that must have been, honestly. So kudos to her. Shout out to him and his, YouTube channel, because it's doing well, obviously, and there's really no hate to him. It's just my observant view of like how he went about this documentary, to be honest. I hope Lilly Phillips is okay. We'll see if, she's still going to do that February 1,000 guys record, which is, I can't imagine her. She was exhausted after 40. So imagine at that, like, I can't even, my brain can't comprehend it. My brain cannot comprehend this. Yeah, those are my thoughts. I'm speechless. So thank you again for tuning in to It Girl in Review. My name is Jay Gibson. See you guys next Tuesday for another review of a movie this time. You don't have to. You can just tune in next week as well, all right? I'm on Spotify too. Thank you guys. Ciao.